Hello, everybody. I have decided to do a Lineage 2 Classic server review here. Now, so these new servers came out on October 3rd, I believe it was, and I had some pretty major issues with the launch right off the bat. I think the servers were actually about 6 hours late to launch, which, I don't know. I've played so many MMOs now, and that's something that typically happens every single time. I can't even think of an MMO that launched, on time or without, major issues the first day. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break on that. That being said, it does look like there was a lot more interest in these classic servers. So now the ones that I'm actually specifically referring to are the new ones that launched for NA. There's actually already been some classic servers out, I believe, in Russia, and I can't remember where the other ones are. Obviously, I've never played on them, so I'm not really sure. But anyways, so they launched 2 servers the initial day, and then realized, probably, I'm guessing that because of the popularity of these servers, that they needed to add one more, at least. So now, just looking today, so it's the 10th today, so October 10th, 2018. So it's about a week now that these servers have been out, if I'm counting right. And they've actually added one more server in the meantime. Now, the 2 initial servers are still very, very full. Seems like every time I check during like our prime time hours, which so I'm central, so if I'm looking from like a 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., the servers are saying that they're high or heavy. They're under heavy load, which so every time I've tried to log in, there's been a login queue too. Now, so login queues are pretty common, I guess. Again, especially when servers first open, and so again, that's one of the things I'm kind of giving them a little bit of a break on. Hopefully now, it looks like they've allowed some character transfers to other servers, and hopefully that helps with the load on these servers. But as of today, still, I have a free-to-play account. And the free-to-play accounts, you have to wait in a login queue if there is one, and there has been one every single day. So there's usually always about anywhere between 400 to 500 people in the login queue, and they've actually had some more problems with that. That being, basically, when you get all the way through the queue, oftentimes your client will just shut down. It'll say something like the game client is closed or whatever, and then you have to hit OK, and it just boots you all the way out, and you have to try to log back in and go through the queue again. So again, I don't know. There's some sort of issue there. They've said that they're about to patch it. My impression was that it was supposed to be done with, I think it's tomorrow's maintenance. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I wanted to talk about a few things here. Now you can see I've got the VIP, the stuff opened. You can read that for yourself if you really want to. But so I actually looked at some posts online on the different Adena rates, which is the money in this game, as well as like spoil rates. So that's a certain thing that the dwarf or one of the dwarfs can do to basically get more items to drop. And it actually looks like there's a pretty major nerf now. There's a lot of questions that I have between. Because I don't remember. Obviously, I don't remember the original Adena drop rates and item drop rates and all that stuff. But apparently, they've tried to kind of fix that with the VIP levels. And what I mean by that is basically the higher VIP level you are, the better your drop rates are. Which it's pretty obvious that it's a pay-to-win type of scenario there. Now, a lot of people are going to argue that it's pay for advantages or pay for this, pay for that, whatever. So I always just look at pay to win, or the term pay to win, as meaning using your money, real life money, to give yourself in-game advantage. I've always disliked that. I've always found it pretty annoying and obnoxious that game companies even do that. And there's always a spectrum, right, of a little advantage here, a little advantage there, and sometimes it's just blatantly obvious and it compounds. And this is a pretty good example of that. For one thing, you've just got an experience bonus right off the top. So I'm looking at the VIP level 3 here. So it's XP SP bonus plus 15%. Now, it should be pretty obvious if you've played MMOs. A 15% experience bonus is pretty massive. It just keeps adding up and adding up. So it's arguable whether or not that's something that's. I mean, you can deal with it for sure. Now, the one thing I will say though about Lineage is it's always been a super grindy game. So, I'll be honest, these rates I don't really mind that much. Just because I'm not invested in the game at all though. So I think if this was a game that I was willing to play again, because I actually do want to point out I actually played this game initially when it first came out, and or at least in the North American version anyway. I don't know if it was released anywhere else first, so just want to point that out. But anyways, so the one thing was back in the day, I was I actually really wanted to play the game, and I had quit. I don't know if I even made it 2 weeks because I had noticed bots running around, and it was kind of the first game I had ever really seen that. So that should probably give you an idea of how long ago that was. I think that was 2003 or 2004, something like that. So I had never really actually experienced bots, and I was really turned off by it, immediately. So I actually didn't play for very long, and I quit. I ended up coming back later, and once my friends were playing, and they, suggested I come back, and it was a little more fun when I came back. The bots were still there. The bots were always there, even to the day that I quit the second time. So it's kind of just something that you deal with. Unfortunately, though, that does even the bots, or especially the bots, are kind of another way that this game was always really pay to win. Being that so the bots would just kind of cruise around and just grab loot and just always be generating this loot, and then the people that wanted to get an advantage would buy money or drops from the bots. So again, the game was always really super pay to win anyway. Now, the issue that I have now versus back then, though, was that wasn't the company doing that stuff. Now, granted, I don't know how much work they really did to put in to try to get rid of bots back in the day. I don't really know. I don't really care though either. I played because I had fun with friends, basically. But again, the game has always literally been pay to win. Now, the one thing though that bothers me about this is that it actually is the company that is blatantly letting people buy their way to advantages, which I wouldn't necessarily care about though either, had they not nerfed the Adena drop rates and spoil rates and stuff. So what it actually does is it creates this problem where, for one thing, so basically what they do is they give you a couple of newbie quests. They get you it's a pretty easy ride to level 20. And then level 20 is where you hit a brick wall. You basically end up kind of running out of what they call a shot or spirit shot or soul shot. So soul shot is for the melee characters, spirit shot is for the magic-based characters. So what happens is you run out of shot. And then, so shot basically just powers your attacks. So you do a ton more damage. I forget if I think it's 2 times damage for soul shot, and then 4 times damage probably 2 times damage for spirit shot as well, and then 4 times damage for blessed spirit shot, because the casters actually get another even more powerful version of their spirit shot, which again I don't really understand why they did that, and they didn't have an option for melee, but whatever. So anyways, there's probably some bouncing stuff there that I just that I never thought out, I guess. But anyways, so what happens is right around level 20, it's not too far in, you'll run out. You completely run out of Soul Shot and Spirit Shot, which basically just makes the leveling process horrid. For the casters, I feel like it's not as bad, especially the pet classes. So basically all of the magicians that go with like a more offensive caster route can get a pet, and the pet damage is actually really good right now, just because when you compare the pet damage to like a melee character's damage, it's pretty crazy. And that's actually typically how a lot of these games go. Basically the melee character's gear is so bad right now, it's tough to compete with these pets. So I suspect as the game progresses, that will be less of an issue for people that basically are rich and want to start a new character because they'll have the money, and that's typically the way things go too. As if you twink out a character, meaning you power it up with a bunch of gear and equipment from your higher level character, that'll be less. It'll be less of an issue, but for anybody that's brand new, a melee character right now is just horrid. So a bunch of my friends and I played, and we basically all had some version of a melee character. And again, like I was saying, the actual progression is just horrible right now. And the real reason for that, though, is because you just don't get the money that you need to gear up a melee character. Casters in this game, and it's actually pretty typical with casters in actually most of the MMOs that I've played, they're just not as gear dependent as melee characters are. They're not taking the hits. They can kite, which again reduces damage, and you can basically wear nothing as long as you've got a good weapon, and you're going to do just fine. So again, but that's the problem though, because the melee characters don't have that option. You don't have any sort of really ranged attack. You technically could if you could pick yourself up a bow, but right now, again, same thing as with everything else. You just don't have the money for it. There's no way to generate the kind of money that you need in a decent amount of time to not have your leveling experience just be ridiculous. Now, the other thing is, all of this said and done, the reality is this game is based on grouping, and if you can get yourself into a good group, or a balanced group, or however you want to say it, with classes that probably complement each other, you'll do okay. But the reality is, most of the groups that are any good or progressing at any decent rate are all caster groups, and they're all just doing AOE groups. So basically, they have like one tank, run up, gather a bunch of mobs in an area, and then all the casters AOE them down, and that's about it. I mean, so the problem for a melee character like the gladiators in this game, which are technically, they start out as warriors. The tanks are okay, because again, they can actually do that, but the archers and all of the daggers, they don't have that option. So again, the leveling experience can be really brutal for them. Again, though, if you've got a bunch of friends that are willing to kind of deal with that, you can do it, but you're going to get out leveled by the AOE groups for sure. So again, that the Adena drop rates and the spoil rates really affect the melees, unfortunately, more than the casters. Again, I expect that they're going to need to change something about that, because again, the leveling experience as a melee character is just really bad right now. You could probably do it and it would be extremely slow, but again, there is a reason why all the the really good parties that are getting shit done are excuse my language, are caster parties. So so that is pretty much all I want to say about that. Now we've actually got another issue with experience right now, and that's death experience loss. Apparently there is an issue right now, and again, hopefully they'll have that fixed tomorrow, but every time you die, you're losing much more experience than you should. So again, that'll be hopefully solved tomorrow. So, and that can make, life as a melee even more difficult right now. I just think it's a lot easier to die as melees, because they just need to be taking hits constantly in order to level. So, Again, hopefully that'll get taken care of tomorrow. Now, the VIP stuff I kind of already went over. It's not just experience rate, it's drops, and then there's different tiers. Now, the one other thing that I want to say about that is, it sounds to me, and I don't know if it quite gets all the way there, but if you're VIP 3, that's basically the cost of a subscription. That's my understanding anyway. Again, I haven't actually paid for one, so I'm not 100% sure, but that actually, again, I'd be completely fine with that. I actually really wish that they would have just went with a subscription and ended it at that. No in-game shop purchases unless it's like cosmetic items. That's one thing that I will say I've never had a problem with. If people want to buy cosmetic stuff out of an in-game shop, then by all means go right ahead. It doesn't affect gameplay in any way, other than it might make you look better if you think that it does. So again, I don't have any problems with that. I think that that can be a good way for companies to make money too, or an additional way for people to companies to make money. Now, again, though, with a game like this, and again, because it's actually, I think mostly because it's a PvP based game, it just screams for paying for advantages, and people will do that because I've played video games for a very long time, MMOs specifically, and I just know the communities in these games, and it's tough too when you're you want to stay competitive, and you can't do that unless oftentimes you're buying stuff from these unscrupulous companies that are just trying to cash grab. So it is what it is. So I actually, again, I really dislike that. I did like L2 back in the day, where the company itself was just doing subscriptions, and you didn't have any of this buying Soul Shot and Spirit Shot from the store nonsense. Now, they've even got some more egregious stuff in there, like 50% experience boost that you can just buy. So, again, it is what it is. This is the game now, and if you want to keep playing, keep playing. If you don't. That's kind of the way I look at it right now. Now, one other thing I want to touch on that I've noticed, and they actually added this apparently a long time ago, and I didn't know it. Again, I haven't actually played this game for over 10 years, I'm sure. But they added basically a fishing system to it. Now, I've actually played other games that have had similar or somewhat similar fishing systems. BDO comes to mind, which is Black Desert Online. Now, I'll say that I absolutely despise the AFK fishing. I just hate it. I feel like it's just completely pointless, and there's no reason to add that kind of stuff to the games. If you want to actively fish, I think that's totally cool. And if that's all it was, then I'd be completely fine with that. But this nonsense where you can just sit there with your character logged in and automatically, in this game, it's super egregious, where you actually get experience by fishing. And I hate it because it keeps people logged into the game 24/7. And if you're not logged in, basically you're losing advantage. And I really dislike that dynamic, I guess. And ironically, it's compounding some of the already present issues with this game, where it sounds like there's about a 6,000 player limit right now with these servers, and that's what's driving those queues, and why you've got a 500 player queue at basically all times. Well, that's because everybody that logs in stays logged in so that they can keep fishing. So again, it's just it's a shitty thing about the game that I just wish companies wouldn't do it. I think it's just stupid. There's no reason to have something where you can stay logged in and get advantages. Again, there's no reason to do that. Offer more experience for quests, or offer more experience for the mobs that you kill. Do whatever. Just do it a different way. Again, I feel like there's no reason for AFK activities whatsoever. They just again, they clog up servers. There's no reason to have at any given time there's at least 1,000 people fishing now in this game, and they're just AFK. So again, it's anyway, I hate it. I think it's stupid. I would really wish games would stop doing it. But whatever. Again, it's one of those things. It is what it is right now, and you just kind of got to deal with it. So one of the last things that I wanted to talk about is, whether or not I'm going to keep playing. The answer is probably should be obvious already. It's no. I already played Lineage back in its heyday. I thought it might be kind of fun to go back, and play with some friends again. But the reality is this game is super group-based, and with people's schedules, it's hard to get all my friends together. Now, that's not to say I can't make new friends, that's for sure. But, the whole idea was my friends were like, hey, you should come play this classic server, we'll make whatever, and it'll be fun, and blah, blah, blah. And, again, I think it would be fun to keep going, but it's tough when it's so blatant that the Melee parties are just horrible right now. It really is miserable. I don't want to, I don't know. I sound like I'm being super shitty about it, but that's just the reality. The caster groups are doing amazing right now, and to be honest, it's really the way to go. It's tough to level these Melee characters though for the time being. Again, because of the money issues. I just think without having good gear, it's just nearly impossible to get anything done. Again, you absolutely can do it, and you can do it at VIP 0. So again, it's just how much you want to put into it and how miserable you want your experience to be. So that's kind of what it actually boils down to. So now that I've played, because I've played so long ago and I remember things a certain way, it's tough to play this version of the game, I guess I'd say. One other thing I actually wanted to add was, because the game has actually progressed and because they have made certain changes with the game, pets being one of them, they've done a lot of different stuff with the pets. One other thing though that I wanted to mention was, I noticed that these skills, some of them they've added some skills, which is kind of cool, but other ones they've moved around. So hopefully I've got this right, but it sounded to me like the Sword Singer, which is a pretty clutch member of a Melee group. They get one of their songs that like doubles your crit rate at a different level now. So again, hopefully I've got it right, but my understanding was back when I originally played, this Sword Singer got that immediately at level 40 when they got their or when they made their class change. But it looks like they've changed that and moved it to level 49, which again, now that's 9 levels worth of grinding out without that song. 9 levels might not seem like a lot when you have a game that's set up to be level 70, but the reality is that's a huge change from the way the game used to be. And again, that just compounds the issues with Melee right now. If you've got to suffer through an extra 9 grueling levels of not having that buff, it makes a big difference. And I know that's not the only class that's like that. My understanding with the human, so there's a human summoner that got a really, really good Melee group buff at level 56. And my understanding, again, is that they've now moved that to level 77, which now the level cap for this classic server is only 70. So as of right now, that buff won't even ever, be in it won't be in the game. I suspect they'll, raise the cap eventually, but again, it's things like that where the more I thought about it, it was like, wow, the leveling experience is going to be a lot more miserable, than it used to be. Not only because of the experience changes, but also because, again, they've actually made some fundamental changes with the classes. And so that's one of the reasons why. Actually, I won't continue on. I actually really liked it's actually the Warlock class. So that's the human summoner class. So again, it's a little unfortunate that they've made some of these changes. And if you like the game and you want to stick with it, my hat's off to you. I think it's gonna take something to to keep going in the game. And hardcore or not, I think it is. But it's always been a hardcore game for sure.